One quiet absence changed everything. Fans noticed it before anyone said a word. No interviews, no updates, no clear goodbye. Just a familiar face suddenly missing. And the silence felt louder than any announcement. That silence pushed one question into every fan's mind: why did John Reardon really step away from Hudson and Rex? For years, John Reardon felt like a steady presence on Hudson and Rex. Viewers trusted him. They followed his character through danger, loyalty, and moments that felt real enough to matter. So when new episodes rolled out and his name stopped appearing in the usual places, people noticed right away. At first, it felt small, like a schedule change or a short break. But then interviews came and went without him. Cast photos were shared. And he wasn't there. No clear reason, no official words, just absence. And when a familiar face disappears without explanation, fans don't stay quiet for long. Online spaces filled the gap that silence left behind. Some fans said it had to be a contract problem. Others believed there was tension behind the scenes. A few even claimed he had been pushed out without warning. None of these ideas were confirmed, but they spread fast. Silence gives room to fear, and fear turns into stories. The longer nothing was said, the more dramatic the theories became. What made it worse was how sudden it felt. There was no farewell episode that felt final, no clear moment that said goodbye. It felt unfinished, and unfinished stories bother people more than sad endings. What made this silence even stronger was John Reardon himself. He was never the type to chase attention online. He kept his personal life calm and private. That worked in his favor for years, but now it had the opposite effect. Because he didn't speak right away, people assumed the worst. In today's world, silence often gets mistaken for guilt or regret. Fans wanted clarity, not drama. They wanted honesty, not rumors. But instead, the quiet stretched on, and every passing week made the mystery feel deeper. This wasn't just about one actor leaving a show. It became about trust. Viewers invest time, emotion, and loyalty into characters. When someone important disappears without a word, it feels personal. People wondered if the show was hiding something, or if John was protecting himself from a hard truth. That uncertainty changed how fans watched the show. Every scene felt different. Every episode raised more questions. The silence didn't protect the story, it reshaped it. And without meaning to, John Reardon's quiet exit became one of the biggest talking points the show had ever faced, long before John Reardon ever stepped away. There were small signs that his journey with Hudson and Rex was slowly changing. Not signs that screamed trouble, but quiet shifts that only make sense when you look back. His role remained important, but the energy around it felt different. Storylines moved in new directions. Other characters began carrying more weight. To most viewers, it felt natural, like the show was simply growing. But behind the scenes, these changes often mean something else. They can signal a crossroads, where an actor starts asking hard questions about where they are going next. Working on a long-running series brings comfort, but it also brings limits. The schedule is demanding. The character becomes familiar, sometimes too familiar. Over time, actors can feel boxed in, repeating the same emotional beats again and again. For someone like John Reardon, who built his career by taking varied roles, that repetition can quietly create restlessness. It doesn't mean he disliked the show or the people on it. In fact, many actors leave projects they love simply because staying feels like standing still. There were also practical pressures that fans rarely see. Television contracts are strict. Filming calendars control months of your life. Personal time becomes short, and creative freedom shrinks. Choosing to stay means saying no to other stories, other characters, and other risks. For years, John chose loyalty and stability. But eventually, every actor reaches a moment where they ask if comfort is worth the cost. That question doesn't come from conflict. It comes from growth. Rumors suggested clashes or sudden decisions, but reality is often quieter than gossip. Nothing pointed to a dramatic fallout. No angry interviews. no public tension with the cast or creators. Instead, it looked like a slow realization that his chapter on the show was nearing its natural end. When actors reach that point, leaving becomes less about escape and more about honesty with themselves. Staying too long can weaken both the performer and the character. What fans sometimes forget is that actors don't see roles the same way viewers do. To the audience, a character can feel endless. To the actor, that same character can feel complete. John Reardon had already given years of his life to this story. He had explored loyalty, danger, and emotional depth through that role. At some point, continuing might have felt like repeating what he had already said. And when an actor feels they have said everything a character can offer, stepping away becomes an act of respect, not abandonment. This is why the truth behind his exit doesn't fit the loud rumors. It wasn't about being forced out or losing relevance. It was about timing, about listening to a quiet inner voice instead of waiting for burnout to scream. The decision grew slowly, privately, and carefully. By the time fans noticed the absence, the choice had likely already been made, and that makes the story less dramatic, but far more human. When John Reardon finally spoke, the tone was calm, not defensive. There was no anger in his words, no bitterness, no need to point fingers. That alone surprised many fans who expected a dramatic reveal instead. What came out sounded thoughtful and measured, like someone who had taken time to reflect before saying anything at all. His message didn't feel rushed, it felt chosen, and that choice changed how people understood his silence. He made it clear that his decision was not driven by conflict. There was no hidden fight, no sudden removal, and no bad blood behind the scenes. The rumors that painted his exit as a forced move were quietly put to rest. What he described was a personal decision, one that came after long consideration. He spoke about growth, about listening to where life was pulling him next, and about knowing when a chapter has reached its natural end. For fans who had feared the worst, this honesty was a relief. John also addressed why he stayed silent for so long. He explained that sometimes speaking too early can twist the truth instead of protecting it. In an industry where every sentence can be taken out of context, waiting felt safer. He wanted the story to be clear, not rushed. Silence, in his mind, was not about hiding. It was about respect for the show, for the people he worked with, and for the fans who cared deeply about the role. That explanation added depth to the quiet that once felt cold. What stood out most was how he spoke about Hudson and Rex itself. There was gratitude in his words. He acknowledged how much the show meant to him and how it helped shape his career. He didn't distance himself from the project. Instead, he honored it. That alone challenged the idea that leaving a show means rejecting it. His words showed that appreciation and departure can exist together. You can love a chapter and still turn the page. Fans also noticed the emotional balance in his voice. He wasn't overly sentimental, but he wasn't detached either. That balance suggested peace. He seemed comfortable with his decision, even knowing it would disappoint some viewers. That kind of comfort doesn't come from impulse. It comes from clarity. It showed that this was not a move made out of fear or frustration, but one made with intention. By finally speaking, John Reardon didn't create more drama. He closed it. His words slowed the rumor cycle and replaced noise with understanding. The mystery that once fueled online debates began to fade. What remained was a clearer picture of an actor choosing direction over comfort, not running away from something, but walking towards something new. And in that moment, the silence that once caused confusion became part of the story itself, a pause before truth, not an escape from it. After stepping away from a familiar world, John Reardon didn't rush into just any new project. Instead, he chose something quieter, smaller, and far more personal. That choice was the movie Autumn. At first glance, it didn't look like a bold career move. There was no loud marketing, no big franchise name, and no promise of instant fame. But that was exactly the point. Autumn offered something he hadn't had in a long time: space to feel, to slow down, and to tell a story that lived between the lines rather than in action scenes. The film focuses on emotion, memory, and change. These are not easy themes, and they don't rely on fast pacing to keep attention. Instead, they ask the actor to carry weight through silence, expression, and honesty. For John Reardon, this was a different kind of challenge. On television, especially in long-running shows, characters are shaped over time and supported by routine. In Autumn, there is no safety net. Every scene matters, every look, every pause. Every word carries meaning. Choosing this role showed that he wasn't looking for comfort. He was looking for truth. What makes Autumn even more meaningful is how closely it reflects where he is in his own life. The story deals with transition, with letting go, and with accepting that change doesn't always come with clear answers. These themes mirror his own career shift. Moving away from Hudson and Rex wasn't about chasing something bigger. It was about chasing something real. Autumn gave him the chance to explore emotion without the pressure of expectation. No character, history to protect, no fan image to maintain, just the work. This role also allowed him to show a side of his acting that many viewers had never fully seen. It's subtle, it's restrained, it relies on inner conflict rather than outward drama. For an actor, that kind of role is risky, quiet. Performances don't always get loud praise, but they often mean more to the person performing them. Choosing Autumn was less about proving himself and more about reconnecting with why he started acting in the first place. By stepping into this film, John Reardon made a clear statement without saying it out loud. He wasn't stepping away from success, he was redefining it. Instead of staying in a safe role that everyone expected, he picked a story that challenged him emotionally. That choice signals confidence. Only actors who trust their craft take these kinds of steps. Autumn wasn't meant to replace Hudson and Rex. It was meant to balance it. One chapter closed, another opened, and the tone changed from familiar to deeply personal. In many ways, Autumn feels like a reset. Not a comeback, not a reinvention, but a quiet return to purpose. It shows that John Reardon's career didn't pause when he left television. It shifted direction. And sometimes, the most powerful moves are the ones made without noise, without rush, and without needing approval from anyone else. John Reardon's exit didn't just affect his own journey, it changed the balance of Hudson and Rex itself. When a long-standing character steps away, the show doesn't simply continue as usual. The absence creates space, and that space has to be filled either by new faces, new story paths, or deeper focus on existing characters. For viewers who had grown used to his presence, that shift was immediate. Something felt different. Even if the show tried to move forward smoothly, the writers now faced a quiet challenge. They had to respect what came before without constantly reminding the audience of what was missing. This is a delicate balance. Lean too much into the past, and the show risks feeling stuck. Ignore it completely, and fans feel dismissed. The changes in tone, pacing, and focus became more noticeable. Some viewers welcome this evolution, seeing it as a chance for the series to refresh itself. Others struggled to connect in the same way, feeling that a key emotional layer had been removed. Fan reactions reflected this divide clearly. Social media became a mix of support and disappointment. Many expressed respect for John Reardon's decision, even if they didn't like the result. They wished him well and followed updates about Autumn. At the same time, there were fans who felt let down. For them, the show and his character were closely linked. Losing one felt like losing part of the other. These reactions weren't rooted in anger as much as attachment. People mourn change when it breaks routine. From the show's perspective, this moment became a test of strength. Long-running series survive by adapting. Characters come and go, but the core has to remain solid. Hudson and Rex now had the chance to prove that its story could stand on its own while honoring the past. New dynamics had room to grow. Existing characters were pushed into deeper focus. This kind of shift can either weaken a show or push it into A new phase of confidence. What remained constant was the respect for what John Reardon contributed. Even without constant mention, his impact was still there. His story helped shape the emotional foundation that the show continues to build on. Fans who stay with the series can still feel those echoes in how relationships are written and how trust and loyalty are portrayed. Leaving didn't erase his influence, it simply changed how it lives within the story. In the end, Hudson and Rex didn't collapse or explode because of his exit. It adjusted. And that adjustment revealed something important. A show isn't just about who stays, but how it honors who leaves. For some viewers, the series will never feel exactly the same. For others, the change opened new interest. Both reactions are valid. What matters most is that John Reardon's departure became part of the show's history, not a break in it. Proving that meaningful stories don't end when a character walks away, they continue in a different shape, walking away from a familiar role often looks like a risk from the outside. But for John Reardon, it was closer to a reset than an ending. His decision showed a clear understanding of where he stands in his career and what he wants from it moving forward. Instead of holding on to stability out of fear, he chose movement. That choice says a lot about confidence. Actors who doubt themselves usually cling to what feels safe. Actors who trust their craft are willing to step into uncertainty. This move also reshaped how people see his career path. For years, many viewers connected him strongly to Hudson and Rex. That kind of connection can be a gift, but it can also quietly limit perception. When an actor becomes too closely tied to one role, audiences can struggle to see them in anything else. By stepping away and choosing a very different project like Autumn, John Reardon challenged that image directly. He reminded people that he is not one character, but a storyteller capable of many shades. There's also a deeper message in how he handled the transition. He didn't rush to explain himself. He didn't turn his exit into a headline-driven moment. Instead, he let the work speak first and the words come later. That approach reflects maturity. It shows an understanding that careers are built over time, not through loud reactions. In an industry that often rewards noise, choosing calm can be powerful. Looking ahead, this shift opens more doors than it closes. Film projects like Autumn position him for roles that demand emotional depth rather than routine familiarity. These are the kinds of roles that stretch an actor and earn long-term respect. Even if they don't bring instant popularity, they build credibility over time. That credibility leads to stronger scripts, more control, and greater freedom of choice. What matters most is that this wasn't a move driven by fear of fading relevance. It was driven by purpose. John Reardon didn't leave to escape something failing. He left to grow beyond something successful. That difference changes the entire meaning of his decision. It reframes the story from loss to evolution. In the end, his journey shows that leaving doesn't always mean walking away. Sometimes it means stepping forward in a direction only you can see. Careers, like stories, need change to stay alive. By choosing growth over comfort, John Reardon proved that his path isn't narrowing, it's opening. And whatever comes next, it will be shaped not by what he left behind, but by what he chose to move toward.